Sounds good.
Okay. So we're very happy to be joined by Igor, who's in Ukraine. And so,
Hi.
just for starters, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Igor, and just explain a little bit who you are and where you're located.
So, hi everybody. My name is Igor Tokobehko. I am the co-founder of Ukrainian Labor Party Narodovladya. It can be translated to English as people's power or direct democracy. It's kind of the same. In Ukrainian, it puts a one word. So, and also before the 2022, I've been a labor union, trade union activist and trade union leader of a couple of trade unions in mining and metallurgical complex, also in medical and pharmaceutical industries. I also I'm a lawyer, not kind of like with what in America you say like license, but I'm a professional. What during what according to Ukrainian laws can represent workers and trade unions in courts and in labor disputes and so on. And that have been my main occupation before full-scale Russian invasion. And in 2020, we with labor activists, with ecological activists, and so union activists and urban activists decided to create a party which will represent working people of Ukraine. And so I am the member of its political council, like kind of executive body. And also from the 2022, I'm serving in Ukrainian military, first as a soldier, from 2023 as a sergeant, and after some time became, because I have higher education, I became an officer. So I am now I'm serving as an officer in Ukrainian military. So enough for the start, I think.
Well, thank you for that introduction. It's very interesting what you say about your party, the Labor Party. Can you talk a little bit about what that party does and what it stands for?
Yeah, we stands for social justice, but in your political language, it's rather more economical justice. We stand for, first of all, and why we call ourselves Labor Party. It's in Ukrainians Партія людей праці, народовладдя. It's very awkward, can be translated as party of working people, народовладдя, party of working people. But we also have this reference to European labor tradition, and our political platform we describing as old school labor parties, not like now labor parties, like Tony Blair kind of, but like Olof Palme or like Clement Attlee politics. So we stand, first of all, for political representation of working people, working class, in the parliament, in the local councils, in all branches of power in Ukraine. And also what it means, this representation. It means promoting interests of working people. And this interests, as we see, definitely is in following. Nationalization of strategical entities. First of all, it's kind of national monopolies, kind of water companies, energy companies, and also such industries as heavy metallurgical complex, as mining complex, as heavy machinery and production of machinery and chemical industries. And that's on the first place. On the second place, it's wealth tax and progressive income taxes. Progressive, I think it's VAT in your language. We'd call it PDV, like taxation of plus value, plus value, and that's a second major thing: progressive taxation, wealth taxation, and the second major thing is labor rights, labor unions rights. So strong workplace democracy. That's the three, I think, the main things. We have less issues with housing, I believe, even during the full-scale war than you have in America. But we have also issues in our program, points in our program addressing these issues. First of all, it's programs of building of social housing, and in the same time creating of housing for rent on social pricing for working families. That's all, but all what I mentioned, but not all our economical program. And we also have democratic program, which stands for first, we as a young democracy, we should go and make some progress from current electoral democracy to really representative democracy, because in our country, as like in your country, but even to the worst condition, we have parliament which does not represent 99% of population and represent only interest of 1/12% of population. So it's moving toward really representative democracy, and from that point, moving toward direct democracy. We are standing for broader use of referendums, so it's and other forms of direct democracy on the local and national level, to give power to the people directly to set laws, to cancel some draft laws implemented by parliament, and also to elect and recall back judges and some other persons in public power. So that's the two main blocks of our program, and it's also a block named like national interests, but it half of it about kind of educational issues, and maybe half about more or less ecology. So that's what we are standing for in theory in our program. In practice, we started our party in 2020 in time of pandemic. So we had only very restricted um, capacities to like made our agitation and organizing. Uh, but mm, when this pandemic we had hope will mm, will end, started the full-scale Russian invasion. So many of our activists, more than half of our political council, is in the armed forces, enlisted, and most of us currently actively serving. So one of our members of political council now in infantry on the position on the front line more than 3 months straight. So very we are very restricted in our capacities, abilities to improve as a party. Now we have kind of two 250 members. That's not much, but I will in other blocks of our dialogue will tell you wild things about Ukrainian political system. So you will understand, hopefully, that 250 members of the party, it's not much, but it's not less. It's not less for Ukrainian political system, and I'll explain you why. So, uh, assuming. Uh, Now we are mostly concentrated on their issues of survival in this existential war against Russian imperialism. Uh, Half of our political council, including me, are in the military, and other half is helping in our volunteer center, UA Help. Its name UA Help. So helping different regiments, units have very big impact on this brigade. My T-shirt is a 43rd Artillery Brigade, which have been very crucial on defending Kiev in the Battle of Kiev. So we have kind of our volunteer center is kind of in chief of supplies of some very critical uh, things for this brigade. So we are mainly concentrating in surviving in this horrific war. But in the same time, we are strongly criticizing our neoliberal government and corrupted government on issues of they trying to steal our labor rights. They are effectively stealing our money from the budget, and it's of course bad for social issues, for social care, for Medicare, and so on, and for defense, for military, of course, it's very bad. So mainly our political activities outside the war is an issues of rightful and constructive criticism. We're criticizing current government and also other um, oligarchic so-called parties on their serving to interests of oligarchy, but not Ukrainian working people.
So it's interesting that you have that criticism of the current government there. Also, I would ask, how has the invasion of Russia, how has that affected workers' rights in Ukraine?
Yeah, besides that fact that obviously every workplace in Ukraine is in danger by missile and Shahid strikes, not only Russian fascism is affecting uh, uh, workplaces in Ukraine, but also corporate greed and personalized in current government, current parliament, and current president. In the very beginning of invasion, they presented and implemented some legislation which cut it partially only for the wartime, for the martial law, and partially indefinitely, permanently, labor rights. In Ukraine, we had relatively on the paper, it's very important, on the paper, we had one of the best labor codes in Europe, maybe in the world. But in real life, because of weakness of unions, most of Ukrainian trade unions are yellow unions, are post-Soviet unions, which in Soviet times were kind of second party line, like party is main line of power and unions kind of second line of power, and it just did what party says. In current Ukrainian moment of history, most of these post-Soviet unions survived, but they are still doing whatever employers tell them, mostly everything that employers tell them. So according to weak labor unions and according to weak institutions like courts and lack of labor representation, workers' representation in the parliament, these layers on the paper strong labor code were neglected in real labor relations, but for this neoliberal government, it was not enough. They tried to eliminate some rights, temporary or permanently. One of these rights is next, that in our labor code we still have this kind of guarantee that in the most reasons of layoff, worker can be laid off, can be fired only with permission of his trade union if he is a member of trade union. And this rule has been stopped by this law introduced and implemented on the start of the full-scale Russian invasion by Ukrainian neoliberal government. So that's the main thing, but not only thing which has been cutted from labor code. But I think it will be not necessary to go deeply to details. Now this neoliberal government is trying to implement new, even worse labor code, it's not the worst that have been introduced already by this government. Before full-scale invasion, they introduced draft which has been called law law about labor, law about work, kind of that stuff, and it were kind of now labor code of Ukraine is like this book, and they try to reduce it to this kind of leaflet, really leaflet. So we stopped that. With trade unions, with other activists, with NGOs, pro labor, pro workers NGOs, and now during war, they Ukrainian neoliberal government trying to implement, trying to cut labor rights, but not as much as they have as they wanted before this invasion. And we are strongly opposing this issue, and it resonates with broader masses of people, of Ukrainian people. But Ukrainian government and parliament can do it anyway, honestly speaking, because they have so-called mono majority. It's not strong as it have been on the first year of this parliament, but they have some pro-Russian parliament members who are on the payrolls and kind of we call it prisoners of war in the parliament, who are voting for all the interests of this neoliberal government and for oligarchy, because obviously these pro-Russian members of parliament were always pro-oligarchical ones. So they effectively can implement this new labor code worse than existing, but we will do our best to make them to stop them this time. This time again.
Okay, thank you for that explanation, Igor. My comrade Kay there has a question also, and then yeah, go ahead, Kay, and ask your question, and then I have another question.
Okay, so the changes to the labor code, that's because of Act 2138, right?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
So the emergency changes that were made to the labor law, is that because of Law 2138?
I cannot. Sorry, I cannot just remember the numbers. There were couple of drafts, and because of I'm in the military from the 2025, I maybe lost count of them, but I can say I can tell you that these changes were introduced not because of war, but because this Ukrainian neoliberal government, previous Ukrainian neoliberal government wanted to absolutely with no correlation with war whatsoever.
Okay. Are strikes still technically illegal?
Uh, yeah, during martial law, strikes are technically illegal, and but you have to understand then that even before martial law, even before full-scale Russian invasion, Ukraine had for decade, for really, um, actually, literally decade, have zero real strikes. Uh, why? Two main reasons. First, very restrictive, uh, very restrictive law about collective bargaining, which mm, have many obligations for trade unions and for uh, labor collectives, to go on strike. You must collect many signatures. You have to go to the very sophisticated procedures. Uh, have negotiations, very long time negotiations. You have to involve um, guys from some national level committee, quasi-state organization to these negotiations. It's in two different kind of um, parts of these negotiations. For some of it, you have to pay for these negotiators, and only if it all will be fulfilled and it will have no positive result, only then you will have to have a conference of the collective of this enterprise and declare strike, and only then after some time, not like 3 days, I think it was 15 days. After 15 days after that, you can go to strike effectively. If it could be the fastest, it could be kind of 3 months, no, 1.5 months, I think. If employer will go to all negotiations, if will not, if it will ignore negotiations, so it can be kind of half of a month, less than month. So as you know, if collective want to go to strike, it's mostly kind of impulsive decision. Workers won't strike now, and probably they will not want to strike after 3 months, and this all uh, negotiation process designed in law to lower strikes, to do everything not to have strikes, and it was effective. It was effective because in Ukraine, statistically, we 10 years before Russian invasion, we had strikes mostly only if this like a plant or factory is already stopped. It's already not working, not um, paying salaries, and after that, this kind of yellow union or independent, relatively independent union will strike. But it have no reason to strike if this plant or factory or other enterprise is already uh, stopped by employer, or it just on the verge of collapse. It doesn't have any meaning. But in kind of strong working and paying salaries in time, factories, plants, and so on. It have mostly no evidence of no precedents of real strikes. I've been one of kind of union leaders who consulted workers during the attempt to make real strike, but in one of big enterprises, relatively big, for 4,000 workers in my region. We achieved some. It's about, I think, 15% increase in salaries. Workers wanted more, so we just go ahead. But we our strike have been banned by court decision, so we were not on the strike effectively. And in the same time, during this process, understood, having counsel with other real independent union leaders, that for this kind of big enterprise, 4,000 workers, our union were relatively small, kind of 120, 140 members. It's not enough to have a strike fund to pay something for striking workers, first of all, and to effectively control this process. So we had some experience. It's been with some pluses and some minuses, partially positive, partially negative, but it's experience. But in general, Ukraine have a very, very low culture of strikes, and now it's forbidden. But in the same time, Ukraine have very good culture of public protest. Not strikes, unfortunately, but public protests, fortunately. We call it meetings in Ukrainian, meetings. I think it's maybe manifestations, demonstrations, more in English. So,
can you give some examples of that?
Yeah, even now, during martial law, as like strikes, manifestations are forbidden, but Ukrainians absolutely ignore it. Absolutely. When our government tried to cut independence of anti-corruption agencies, many mostly young Ukrainian people were on the streets, went to the streets with like boards, cartoon, cartoon? Yeah, it's a cartoon. Okay, with like handmade boards, cards against this, with very creative slogans. It was kind of controversial in Ukrainian society, this protest, because these agencies have no class agenda. They are deeply like bourgeois organizations. They are in other way serving to interests of great capital, but in the same time, it's a question of gradual progress of Ukrainian democracy. It's about balance of power, it was an attempt of Ukrainian corrupt government to seize power, to all power to their own hands. And so in my opinion, it's good that these demonstrations, manifestations happened, and that Ukrainian government retreat in these issues. So public won this battle, and it's not only this. It's other example. It's demonstrations uh, um, like funding for military, гроші для ЗСУ, funding for military forces. It also civil protest without any class agenda, but deeply, very, very deeply, it have some social agenda, because in broad masses of Ukrainian society there is clear understanding that our elite, so-called elite, is deeply corrupted and working only for their own interest, for interests of oligarchy, and it have two main consequences: low level of life, very high level of poverty in Ukrainian society relatively to other European countries. And second consequences is not enough funding for the military. So these protests took place without any permission, and in Ukrainian constitution and laws broadly, we don't have to catch okay, we don't have to have any permission, any to go to protest, to go to demonstrations, manifestations, and so on. We just we have only during via constitution, we have only obligation to make some note for some public authority. It can be police, it can be local council, it can be mostly anything, and there is no way, no particular way how it should be. It can be via email, it can be via postcard, letter, and so on. And Constitution says it should be kind of before the gathering, but before it can be 5 days and 5 minutes. So we have very, very in good way liberal rules about public protest, but we have absolutely ridiculously restrictive rules about strikes, and we have good culture of protest, but not social protests as strikes. And two Ukrainian revolutions were democratic revolutions, not social revolutions, unfortunately.
So it brings to mind, what you're saying brings to mind two issues. First of all, on the issue of corruption, of course,
yep.
the Trump here has made it an absolute art out of corruption. We've always had a problem with corruption here in our government, but Trump has brought it to unprecedented heights. And the capitalists don't really like it, because what it does, it doesn't create a level playing field. Things are arbitrary. They don't know from one day to the next, what will the rules be under which they have to play. But from our point of view as workers, I mean, number one, it gives the capitalists in the end direct, immediate access to the government. And also, it's our money. It's the taxpayers' money that they're stealing. So that's my reaction when I hear you talk about corruption. I mean, what we've seen here is just unprecedented. So I wanted to ask you, before you go any further, though, you know, you talk about protests there and so on, but I want to ask you, you know, because this is for a largely American audience, and as you may be aware, there is massive confusion amongst socialists here, and confusion is the best term that we can put it. There's massive confusion about the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So I'd like to ask you to talk a little bit, like you talked about all the protests that you have there. Is there anything like that at all possible in the regions that are controlled by Russia? What would happen if people tried to have a protest there?
Yeah, that's a great question, and your question is a good answer to other question: why we are fighting? Because current Ukrainian government is obviously anti-workers, obviously corrupted, obviously working only in interests of oligarchy in expense of working people. So why we are Ukrainian anarchists, socialists, labor activists, and broader, not ideological folks who are working class, who have working class background, why we are fighting and dying in this situation? Then Russian government is oligarchic government and Ukrainian government is oligarchic government. So your question is really the answer, because in our Ukrainian relatively free territory, we can protest, we can criticize our government as much as we can, as much as we want. In near days, head of our party, Yuri Levchenko, said in the main state channel, it's like some you don't, I think you don't have one, but in Britain it's like a BBC. He said in the talk show that we should investigate and arrest all Zelensky's cronies, and after he will leave office, we should investigate and arrest Zelensky himself. Can you imagine something relative to this in Russia? You cannot. You just cannot.
Or in the parts of Ukraine controlled by Russia.
Yeah, obviously. So only meetings, only protests, demonstrations can be in the occupied territory of Ukraine, occupied by Russian fascism, is pro-Russian, is pro-fascist, or so-called communist. But really, most of Russian communists are just red fascists, because they are standing for absolutely all that is standing Putin fascist government, but they are calling it like Stalinism and so on. But absolutely, what we are seeing in Russia, we can criticize Soviet Union that it was kind of socialism without a democracy. Russia now is a Soviet Union without socialism. So, and democracy, obviously. So it's kind of, you have Soviet Union. It was bad because of lack of democracy, but it was good because of medicine, of education, of zero unemployment. But you don't have this all in Russia. We, economically speaking, Ukraine and Russia are mostly the same, but in Russia they have slightly more public, not public, state enterprises, but it controlled by Russian oligarchs effectively. effectively, and we have same level of degradation of social state. But in Ukraine, we have much more civil rights, and we in Narodovladya, we believe that democracy it's a precondition. It's a precondition for social and economical justice. It cannot be built. Social and economical justice cannot be built without democracy. It's our point, and I think yours too.
You know, it seems to me that in one sense, the way you could describe the opposition to the Russian invasion is, yes, it's a question of culture, of like cultural genocide and all of that, but would you agree that it's also, in one sense, a struggle for democratic rights and for workers' rights? That's one way to describe the struggle against the invasion.
Yes, absolutely. And we have to understand that for mostly all Ukrainian fighters, Ukrainian warriors, Ukrainian soldiers, it's a struggle for democracy, and for many of them, for most of them, it's a struggle also for possibility of gradual uh, move toward workers' rights, and one day achieving democratic workers' government. Because in Russian occupation, in Russian puppet regime, we cannot have really workers' democratic government, because we will have only Russian fascist government, and that's obviously not what we choose.
Right. You know, as socialists, we understand that capitalism cannot and will not ever resolve the problems that it created. But there is a difference between capitalist rule under democratic rights and capitalist rule without democratic rights. Although we oppose both, but the first form of rule is fundamentally different. And I just have to interject, here in the United States, a lot of the socialists, you're probably familiar with the fact, that here in the United States, a lot of socialists don't understand the importance of this is to put it mildly, don't understand the importance of opposing the Russian invasion. And those same people who think that they're socialists, they also tend to equate the Republican and Democratic parties. Oh, they're just the same. Well, in the past, they used to be pretty similar, but now you have one party that stands for bourgeois democracy, which we don't support capitalism in any form, and the other party that stands for dictatorship with links to actual fascism. And to say there's no difference, it's the same thing as saying there's no difference between the rule of Zelensky and the rule of Putin.
Yeah.
So I'd like to also ask you, obviously the world has had a tremendous shock in the last few days, and we here in the United States are engulfed in it. That is the US attack, or I should say the Trump attack on Iran. And could you talk a little bit about how people in Ukraine, and also you yourself, which might not be the same thing, how you see, number one, the Iranian Revolution, and number two, the current assault on Iran?
Yeah. First of all, I have to state that our party doesn't have official position on these events, but I can provide only my personal position, my personal opinion. And from my personal perspective, I have to say that it's a very complicated question, and it's very dependent on the standpoint, on the point of view. Because from American perspective, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a very, it's definitely bad because, first of all, it's unconstitutional because President of the United States can't start in wars of on his own. He have to get congressional approval for using of military force abroad, and in the same time, in the same time, uh, when the rich wage war, it's a poor who die. So working class of America will take all the expenses of this war by lives of American soldiers who enlisted, mostly because they have to pay for their rents, for Medicare, to have in future higher education, and so on, because American state doesn't give them these basic things that are absolutely basic starter pack for mostly every European state. But and on the other hand, uh, every working family in America eventually will um, will be impacted by higher inflation because of rising prices of oil during this war. So for America, from American perspective, from the interests of American working class, I think it's highly, highly not. It's highly negative. It's highly negative. From Ukrainian perspective, it's absolutely different, and but also very complicated. Ukrainians hate ayatollahs and establishment of Iranian theocratic regime because Iranian regime helped effectively Russians to bomb Ukraine. They provided Russians with technology of Shahed drones. Now Russia produces it as Herbera, and from these Shahed drones and Herbera drones, thousands and thousands of innocent Ukrainians died, mostly civilians. Mostly civilians. Shahed drones mostly used to hit civilian civilian objects, not military, and this very significant part of our energy infrastructure has been damaged or destroyed by this.
If I could, excuse me for interrupting, but my understanding is that most of the Shahed drones that Russia is using are now produced in Russia, not in Iran.
Yes, yes.
So then,
then
the U.S. attack on Iran would not have much effect on that.
Yeah, but Ukrainians still hate Ayatollahs anyway. So it's it's not kind of on the streets, but in heads, in the social media, we can see that Ukrainian people kind of celebrate this attack because, like, a friend of your enemy is your enemy.
So if I could just go back, sorry for interrupting, but just go back for 1 second. So what is your view, and also prior to this attack, and also the general view, has there been much attention paid or thought about the revolution itself against the regime?
Yeah. So I'll tell about this later. I will finish about Ukrainian perspective, and its complexity. So on the one hand, Ukrainians are celebrating because United States, as a relatively allied country, attacking an ally of our direct enemy. But in the same time, as you said, Russians already have this technology. So fall of Ayatollah regime probably will not change much to better for Ukrainian-Russian war. And in the same time, blockade of Strait of Hormuz and all disruptions in this region will likely increase dramatically oil prices. So it will be very preferable, it will be very good for Russian struggling economy. So for Ukrainians, it will have mixed results. But Ukrainian society, like kind of pleased by this destruction of Iranian Ayatollah regime, but at the same time, effectively, it can be bad for Ukraine in this war. And if we will see broader democratic perspective, and I don't believe that we have a right to speak from the perspective and from the standpoint of Iranian people, because we are not Iranian people, we are not living in Iran, but from the broader democratic perspective, it can be good because during Ayatollah regime, obviously, and now it's proven that people cannot overthrow it and do anything by democratic or even revolutionary means. Protests, mass protests in this year have been drowned in blood by Ayatollah, by corps of guardians of Islamic Revolution and their paramilitaries. Thousands have died. So we can say that this kind of help from Trump administration is late, very late for this attempt of democratic revolution. But from democratic perspective, it may be, just maybe, it's better late than never. But in the same time, if Ayatollah regime will survive this bombing, it will be effectively worse. We can say that it's better not to have any action than this action, if this action will not lead to regime changing. What regime could be after Ayatollah regime? It could be another reactionary regime of Pahlavi, monarchy, absolutely maybe puppet for United States, which of course, yeah, bad, but in the same time, if we see countries in the world that are the most democratic and the most social oriented, it's Denmark, it's Sweden, and it's Norway, and they are all monarchies. So in my opinion, or it's only my opinion, not of my party, in my opinion, that can one day Iranian people got democracy and hopefully social state under monarchy. Yes, they can, yes, under Pahlavi democracy, maybe where they will someday evolve to democracy, to constitutional monarchy, and to social state, like Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, and maybe not. Maybe they will be absolutely banana republic, like we are saying here. They will be have this extractionist neoliberal puppet regime of the United States, but it's up to Iranian people to decide under this kind of, I will say it repeatedly, retrograde regime. But Iranian current regime is the highest level of retrograde, of it's I don't believe that it's somewhere fall deeper than theocratic authoritarian regime. So maybe for Iranian people it could be for better, but I don't believe that Trump administration wants a better future for Iranian people.
So
I don't believe in fairies.
there are reports that even before, during the protests, that the Pahlavi forces inside Iran were attacking the protesters. And so, whether there's a formal king or queen, as in society, isn't really the question to me. You pointed out the Scandinavian countries. I don't think, this is my view now, I don't see any chance for a Pahlavi regime there, maybe linked with the MEK, and also connected with elements of the old military wing of the current regime. That regime cannot evolve into a democratic regime. It would require a new revolution for that to happen. So I think that is the real intent of the Trump intervention. I posted a link to an article in the chat there that we have. I think that's their real intent, is to try to install Pahlavi, maybe possibly with the MEK, as the head of a new government, to make sure that a left-wing government does not come into power there.
Yeah, obviously, that's obvious. But I don't believe that we can do something meaningful in this issue, and we in Narodovladia really believe that the main thing that we as labor activists should do that it unite people people under some wide ideas of workers' government, of democratic and in the same time social transformations of each country. We can save working class one country at a time. Concentration on foreign issues is the thing that divides working class, and concentration on economical issues, on what Bernie Sanders saying, fight back oligarchy, is the best thing that we can do in United States, in Canada, in Ukraine, in France, and so on. Concentration on the one thing: we working people against billionaires.
Yeah.
If we will unite on these things, less discussing foreign affairs and more discussing economical issues, social issues, and how will workers' government face issues of our time, AI, unemployment, climate crisis, and all of that real stuff, that we shall take and persist power of working people. I mean, by power, I mean government, and deliver changes to make this world better place, one country at a time. I'm not saying that we should build social just society only in a particular country, Ukraine or United States. We have been, we should be in solidarity with each other. And but I just trying to say that I really don't know how I can help to Iranians. If I will know some real Iranian initiative, organization, trade union, which now fighting against regime and will try to establish workers' government in Iran, maybe I will in some way help them. But for us, I think these international issues, if we not do something about it, it's like a talking club. We mainly, I believe, should concentrate on the issues of fighting back oligarchy in each our country and help each other to do that. But mostly, we can help each other to do that. Then we are at least partially successful in this thing. As I see in my country, the most the most valuable thing now is to survive in this war against Russian fascism and to build as much as possible our Workers' Party to have good results in elections, whatever they will take place, and to have first seats in parliament and in local councils, and to show to broader Ukrainian public that it can be not only oligarchical politics, but can be politicians who work for people, not their sponsors, not for oligarchs. So, and in your country, I think the main goal now is not to give for MAGA and Trump administration a chance to win and to rig and win elections, midterm elections, and to establish the full-scale fascist regime.
You know, you raised two somewhat different but intimately connected issues. And, you know, I know that for the Iranian people, just to hear support and to see that the news of what is happening in Iran, and I'm talking about prior to the U.S. attack, what was happening in Iran, and to show support for the just political support, and to publicize the news of the revolution there, is something that's very important to them. For instance, coming from us here in the United States, even though we can't do very much more than that. And so you talk about building a movement, you know, country by country, for workers' rights and for workers' democracy and so on. But I think also as socialists that, well, let me put it this way. We see with Trump that he's building an international movement. So is Putin, for that matter. And in many ways, they're building it together. They're making the links internationally. Putin has his links here in the United States with people like America First and Nick Fuentes and so on. And Trump has his links internationally throughout Europe. And so I believe that we as socialists have to make those same links, especially those of us who are socialists, those socialists who see that these issues of workers' rights and so on apply regardless of what government is aligned with what government. As I said, many people who think they're socialists here in the United States say, well, we don't support the revolution in Iran because that government there is against the American government. That's crazy. That has nothing to do with socialism. So I think that we do have to develop a socialist movement that makes those international links and works hand in hand together. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, absolutely. International solidarity is important, and we are now trying to make our boundaries and exchange our experiences with our friends in Denmark, Danish Popular Socialist Party. In the same time, we didn't start it. We didn't started these efforts. It started from Danish side, from the side of Danish International Institute for Political Democracy, for party democracy. Why? Because we are very much concentrated on the building actual working movement in our country, because you can have like a 100 members organization and to be linked with all workers, small organizations, very social radical organizations, very much kind of very orthodoxical on every particular issue on all over the world, in Northern America, in Southern America, in Europe, in Africa, in Asia. But together you will be kind of only kind of guys with very radical ideas about transforming their countries and world to better place for working people. But still in your country you will be like 100 dudes with absolutely no influence whatsoever. It's absolutely irrelevant. So we are trying to create real, actual mass movement and at the same time political party. And we have very, very not that big successes that we want to have, mostly because all our time of life of our party is pandemic and full-scale war. But I want, if you are interested in this, tell you something wild things about Ukrainian political system, if you want to listen about it.
Yes, I would. If we could just hold for 1 second.
Yep.
He there had one issue that he wanted to raise, and then we'll go to what you wanted to say, and then maybe get some of your concluding remarks. So go ahead, Kay, please.
Hey, so Igor, I understand what you mean in terms of trying to focus on the immediate economic issues on the domestic level. But I think a thing to understand about the US political system that we're dealing with over here right now is when Trump violates the Constitution in these very blatant ways like this, in these huge ways that totally go against the basic way it works, it's making it easier and easier for him to violate it without any consequences. And the real thing we have to be worried about here is that he might not honor the results of the elections that we're having this year. That's a legitimate fear we have here. So for us, because of the way that the laws and the political system works here, we actually can't ignore the Iran question, because if we ignore the Iran question, they use it against us at home. Does that make sense?
And if
Yeah,
that will have a direct consequence on Ukraine, because we know that Putin's closest ally is Trump. And so the more Trump reinforces himself in power by violating the Constitution, as Kay pointed out, the more that will strengthen Putin, because Trump supports Putin. So anyway, your thoughts on that, and thank you, Kay, for bringing that up.
yes, absolutely, and all of us in Ukraine are deeply concerned about political situation in the United States. It also one of the biggest economies in the world, and now, for your understanding, we don't have any aid from the United States whatsoever. Only European countries buying something from the United States. It's mostly Patriot missiles, and why this action against Iran is also bad for Ukraine now is because more of these Patriot missiles using by Israel, by other American allies in the region. So potentially less missiles will came to Ukraine, but it not like a gift from the United States. It's paid by European allies of Ukraine. So, and first thing, it's some munition, with missiles, anti-missile missiles, Patriot. It's one support. It's significant, and the second is intelligent data, but it's mostly not so much valuable and relevant. I think now Europe provides us with more valuable intelligence information, and we ourselves have very significant amount of intelligence information ourselves. So even if America will give us nothing, it will don't kind of let us down. That you have to understand. But obviously, we are concerned about the political situation in the United States, and we are wishing you the best of luck to stay democracy and to improve your democracy, because I think it's more to improve what to improve in Ukrainian democracy and in American democracy. Unlike in many European countries, I've been in Denmark in my vacation, so it's a really high level of democracy and trust for institutions in this country, and also very significant results on the local level of left-wing parties, especially in Copenhagen on these elections. So obviously you have something to worry about in this particular situation, and in general with this administration.
So before we wrap this up, I just want to make one mention. You were talking about Khamenei, and I saw a video of tens of thousands, maybe even more than that, of Iranian people out in the street celebrating when they heard the news of Khamenei's death. So we should keep that in account. But maybe, Igor, you would like to wrap this up with some final words to workers and to socialists here in the United States and also internationally.
Yeah. So I think if may I tell something about our political system for
Sure.
for the end. So our Ukrainian political system as a post-Soviet country in the first decade were characterized by some mass parties. It have been a communist party, it have been socialist party, maybe two main mass forces. After it emerged some deeply conservative and pro-Russian force, regionalists, they call themselves as Party of Regions. It explicitly pro-Russian party. Communist Party were also pro-Russian, and Socialist Party were pro-Ukrainian party, but socialist. And few nationalist parties, obviously pro-Ukrainian. So, but during 30 years of Ukrainian democracy, it have been very curious development that democracy improved, but parties disappeared. All these mentioned parties were kind of broad mass parties with thousands of members, but they disappeared one by one. Communists, because most of all of their members just died from age. They don't have a young generation, and before they died, it's been forbidden. Socialist Party go to irrelevance, then they betrayed their voters because they were socialist pro-Ukrainian party, and then they came to coalition with this deeply pro-Russian conservative party and pro-Russian communist party. Their members and their voters assumed this as betrayal, so they destroyed themselves and were expelled from social international and social, like Comintern by Soцintern. And this pro-Russian conservative regionalist party has been destroyed by Second Ukrainian Revolution, called also Maidan, and Nationalist Party also disappeared because they kind of fulfill the destination by destroying this pro-Russian regionalist party. And now in 2026 we have in Ukraine only one party, and it's our Labor Party Narodovladia. And this party have only 250 members, rough number, but you can go to this to the internet website of National Anti-Corruption Agency of Ukraine, and you can see NAZK, it's called in Ukrainian, and you can see all accounts of all parties, all their accounts, and you can see that 75% of all membership fees in Ukraine is paid to our party. So we are kind of, um, I'm joking that we are giants amongst Lilliputs. So because every other so-called party is just a shell, like a shell company, but shell political company of oligarchs, and we are only not like a only social democratic party, or only on the left or the right side of the spectrum. We are only party in Ukraine because other are shell companies of their oligarchic owners. That's for the broader context of Ukrainian politics. And what I want to say for American workers, for
hold on. Yeah, sorry, sorry for this.
yeah,
But since you're talking about that, I wanted to ask you, and then you can. Then I'd like to ask you to give a final message. But can you talk about your relationship with Socialny Ruch?
yeah. We, from the day one of our creation of our party, we established and tried to maximize our relations with Socialny Ruch, social movement organization. It's an NGO. It's I want to be clear. It's NGO, not a party. They tried to create party in 2015. In 2015, and but they unfortunately failed because of highly bureaucratic rules of creation parties. So they are, in my opinion, good guys, truly pro-workers organization, but they are trying to make like a broad left, relatively broad left organization based on ideological issues. And we are creating and building broad, even broader, I think, Labor Party created based not on the particular ideology, but on the idea of representation of working class in the politics. So we are constantly inviting them to merge, to join other forms of cooperation. We are still in talks in this matter. So we are exchanging our thoughts, our experiences, but it's kind of relations between actual registered political party and friendly NGO in the same direction and program.
Thank you. Thank you. So go ahead then. If you have any like final message to workers in the United States and around the world.
Yeah. I wish for American workers not to left their struggle for labor rights, economical rights, and against Trump administration to have really pro-workers government one day that will face affordability crisis and will improve rights of working rights, rights of unions, and make America really great, but not in the international stage, but for workers, for working families. And for international workers, I wish just that we have to unite in all our countries to achieve that I just said, and help each other to make this place, this world, better place for all, not just for billionaires. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to talking again in the near future.
Yep, definitely.